Hi. I want to respond to your analysis about the historical origins of ideas. In this particular case, whether or not Foucault was influenced by Lenin and Marx. Let me say from the onset that I really have no interesting opinion on that subject. But I do have a kind of criticism of how you derive your opinion that Foucault must have been influenced by Marx and Lenin. Because you see, at a certain level, to me, it's an empirical question. Do we find evidence in his writings that these were principal influences on his thought? I mean, to me, that's how you determine it. And that you can't really argue the case a priori, as you seem to do, and that you even seem to suggest that there's a sense in which, given the nature of a certain facet of Foucault's thought, that he necessarily must be influenced by them. And this is how your argument goes, as I understand it. Foucault analyzes human problems in terms of systems of power, as did Marx, as did Lenin. Ergo, according to you, Foucault must have been influenced by Lenin and Marx. Whereas capitalist analyses situate human problems in what you said, I believe I got you correctly, human character. I suppose you mean by that, among other things, free will, the kind of choices that people make for themselves. You know, if you're poor, well, that's your fault. You made bad choices, that sort of thing. I guess the principal problem I have with this is that there's a way in which you sort of remove capitalism from time and don't really understand what it was, particularly at its inception. And what it was at its inception consciously. What it was at its inception consciously was a reaction to, a rebellion against a system of power. A feudal economic system of power, which it believed kept people in their thrall, that denied people human liberty, that stifled initiative, that didn't allow people to take responsibility for their own economic condition and well-being, etc., etc., etc. You know, it's many of the same terms and honorific phrases that capitalists repeat endlessly to this day. Now, of course, what happened after capitalism successfully reacted to the system of power that preceded it, so much so that capitalist economies became the dominant economies in the Western world, then the analysis sort of switched. It was no longer, you don't analyze human problems in terms of system of power, you analyze them, as you said, in terms of human character. And you can sort of understand why capitalism would sort of switch the analysis, because after all, there were all those problems, human problems that capitalism produced: grinding poverty, exploitation, child labor, abusive workplaces, etc., etc., etc. And capitalism was no longer interested in analyzing human problems in terms of situations of systems of power, because it was the system of power and it didn't want that kind of analysis. So it shifted the focus to the individual, to the human character. If you're not making it in a capitalist economy, well, you see, that's your fault. It's not a problem with the system. It's a problem with you. So, Nevertheless, it's a little bit disingenuous to say that Foucault must have been influenced by Lenin and Marx because they alone analyzed problems in terms of systems of power. Because that's not true of capitalism at its very beginning. As a matter of fact, Marx, one of his principal influences was Adam Smith. As a matter of fact, Marx's theory, labor theory of value, was a ripoff from Adam Smith. Isn't that interesting? That actually, that Karl Marx is a iteration of capitalism. I think that's a particularly fascinating thought, and perhaps even a problem with Marx's thought. In any case, I don't think your analysis stands up, and that, as a matter of fact, it's rather ahistorical, and that you really can't analyze influences in a priori terms. You have to see the kinds of philosophers that other philosophers are reacting to determine who influenced them. It's an empirical matter. Nice talking to you.